So Pete's got the itch.
Go and listen to the podcast. Go and listen to the podcast. We've got a great guest and our takes are the best. Don't listen to nothing but the podcast. Go and pod your tall man.
Can I introduce it, Pete?
I don't know their names.
Go and pod your tall man. You might be tall, but I'm standing in front. Gonna listen to nothing but the podcast. Your sweet little host. Your sweet little host. Standing in front and you're talking, don't stop. Gonna need to edit down the podcast.
You're tall, but I'm standing in front of you.
It's a podcast.
Welcome to You're Tall, but I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends circling the drain of academia examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
I'm Ethan.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going great. It's summertime. Did I say it was summertime last episode as well?
I mean, the entire series is really summertime metaphorically, right? Because we are on summer vacation right now.
We just had the summer solstice, though. And it's like light out at 9:30 p.m. and that's crazy. Someone should study that. How are you doing, Devin?
I'm great. But this is really, I think, an episode that's about you, right? Because we're journeying to a place that is very dear to your heart.
Yeah. We watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is set in Mississippi, which, was my home state for about a decade. So very near and dear to me, and perhaps even more so, definitely more so to our guest as well that is joining us. We are joined by Andrew Bryant. Welcome, Andrew.
Hello everyone.
Yes. Andrew he's a singer-songwriter. He's also a founding member of the band Water Liars. He is also the operations coordinator at the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi. So I think a fantastic guest on all fronts for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So welcome, Andrew.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to be catching up with you guys. It's been too long. So.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Andrew and I go way back from when I lived in Oxford, Mississippi. So,
yeah.
So it's really nice to have you with us, Andrew. I'm sort of curious. What is your past experience with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'm just gonna say Oh Brother because that's so much easier to abbreviate. So what's your past experience, your viewing history of what you recall with this film?
Man, I remember I think this film came out when I was in community college when I first went to college, or had kind of taken a break from community college and gone back to community college. And there were these two guys that I was friends with on campus that I kind of hung around with all the time. And they were big movie buffs and kind of theater kids. And I was more of a music kid, but they were like real into films. And they had gone to see it, and we were at the cafeteria, and they had seen it once, and they kept like quoting lines back and forth to each other from the movie after seeing it one time. They just thought it was like the greatest thing they had ever seen. And I was like, what is this movie? I have to go see it. And so I went to, I guess the next weekend, I drove over to Tupelo and saw it just on my own, I think by myself, and just thought it was great. I wasn't at the time familiar with Coen Brothers movies. I don't think I'd never seen Big Lebowski. I think I may have seen Raising Arizona because it was such a kind of bigger film. But yeah, it was like kind of my first experience with a real Coen Brothers movie, I guess, in the theater.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. That's interesting because like I always think because this film being set in Mississippi but written by the Coen Brothers, where are they from?
Minnesota.
They're from Minnesota, which is on
which
the other
of course
end of the
informs
Mississippi.
Fargo, right?
Oh
So
yeah, that makes that.
they've
tracks.
made Fargo at this point. They've made their sort of like hometown movie, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. And then they themselves journey down south for this. So I'm very curious. Like, how did it? Like, did you have a sense, Andrew, of like what the like general kind of like cultural reaction in and around Mississippi, in and around the South was to this movie? Did it feel like a accurate depiction? Did it feel like now it's obviously not a realistic movie, right? But did it feel like, oh, good, like my state is being represented on film, or was there any element of like, what are these like guys from Minnesota, these like famous directors doing, like dabbling in things they don't necessarily understand?
Well, from what I remember, most people, and I'm coming at this from an angle of sort of coming from a working class Mississippi sort of family who would have seen this movie versus some people in academia, which I was kind of around in college, who had a kind of a different perspective on it. So I was kind of in the middle of both of these perspectives, and everyone seemed to really think at the time that it was like one of the better depictions of Mississippi culture on film. And kind of like all the ways. Because a lot of times films, when they're depicting Southerners, it often gets a little stereotypical. And this film definitely has that. It has the stereotypes in it. But for whatever reason, people seem to like, I think it had been long enough in the film world that you hadn't seen a movie that was set in this way with Southerners and Southern accents in it.
Yeah.
People were like kind of happy that it was back. Or something like that. Does that make any sense?
No, for sure. It's interesting from the George Clooney angle to this is interesting too, right? Because George Clooney is, of course, from Kentucky. Ethan, of course, your wife is from George Clooney's mom's hometown, right?
Yeah.
Which is where you got married, right? So we've all been to Maysville, Kentucky, right? And with the Rosemary Clooney Theater and whatnot. But it's not like I'm intimately familiar with George Clooney's filmography, but as far as I know, this is like the only time he's really, dealt with that on film. Like because for a guy from Kentucky, he very much kind of presents as this like cosmopolitan East Coast liberal, right? So it's interesting, like, him deciding to make this film as much as the Coen brothers.
Yeah, have you guys heard the story of how he got his accent for the movie? I heard this somewhere that what George Clooney did was he sent the script to his uncle who lived in Kentucky still, and had him read the script out and like record it and send it back to him, so that he could base his accent off of his uncle from Kentucky. And his uncle did it, but he said he wouldn't say all the curse words because he was such a religious guy, and he didn't want to say all the goddammits that are in the movie, in the script, He didn't want to say those, so he would just say "gosh darn it" or whatever, So, I haven't fact checked this, but I read that somewhere, and I thought it was really
that actually sounds familiar now that you say it. That's really funny.
Yeah. What about you, Devin? What's your history with O Brother?
Yeah, so I think this is the first Coen Brothers movie I remember coming out. Like, I remember the commercials for this one, the trailers, but I remember being really confused by it at the time. It's like, the title, it took me a long time to realize that the title wasn't saying "Oh brother" in a like "Oh brother" like kind of way, you know. And so I always thought it was like I always thought the title was like some kind of like weird like joke. Um, and years later, I saw. Have you guys seen Sullivan's Travels by the Preston Sturges movie?
No.
It's like it's from like the 40s, I want to say 40s or 50s, but it's where they get the title from because it's about a director of like comedies who wants to make this like Great Depression downtrodden man movie called Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and like the studios won't let him, and he kind of goes on the lam to like live as like a hobo essentially with like like the stick with the handkerchief tied to the end of it to like learn what it's like to be poor and working class in America so he can make Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and then at the end of it he decides like he actually just wants to keep making comedies because comedies have value and like make people happy and whatnot, right? And so that's where they get the title, and the title is kind of like a nod to that. But I don't think I saw it for a long time, actually. I think it was like one of the ones I got to at some point when I was like, oh, what are the Coen Brothers movies I hadn't seen? And it wasn't always my favorite, although I always loved the music, especially Man of Constant Sorrow I loved. But it really grew for me with this rewatch. I feel like I was able to appreciate kind of what it was doing with the way it was trying to think about politics, what it was doing with the different kind of generic modes it's playing with a lot more. And of course, I've always remembered it fondly because do you all know whose favorite movie this is?
Who?
Yeah.
Mr. Mitt Romney. And so I will always remember it was the moment I knew that Mitt Romney had no chance, like way before like Binders Full of Women, and maybe even before he said that his favorite meat was hot dog. I was like watching like CNN or MSNBC or something, and they were just showing like Mitt Romney like going around like on the campaign trail. I think it was probably in Iowa, like pre-Iowa caucus, right? And they're just showing him like in a diner, like talking to, like folksy Americans is how like CNN or whomever is presenting it. And they ask him like, oh, like he mentions like he loves watching movies. And they're like, oh, what's your favorite movie? And he like really snidely looks at them and goes, I tell you, but you haven't heard of it. And they're like, all like, I mean, like, try us. And he's like, oh, brother, where art thou? And they're like, oh, yeah, we've all seen that movie. That's a pretty good movie. And I was like, man, this guy is. And I actually think that's perfect. Wow. We could get into it later. But for that Mitt Romney loves this movie that is about, like, in many ways, how fraudulent elections are is very perfect. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I remember seeing the film when it came out. I don't know if I saw it in theaters, but like around when it came out, I remember really enjoying it. Although certainly did not understand a lot of what was actually going on in this film. So I guess maybe that speaks to the quality of the film that I could, sort of as a middle schooler or high schooler could watch it and appreciate it. So I enjoy, and again, it was the music I think is what I really enjoyed with this film too, which with a lot of the going like the hymnals and all that sort of stuff, because of course that was like my upbringing, because the band that my mother's in, Devin.
Oh yeah, wait, what are they called again?
They're called the God Squad, and so
man, I was gonna guess that, and I was like, "There's no way that's right."
No, that's right, and they do all sorts of prison ministry and stuff. So maybe there was some familiarity in that regard with this film that I was able to latch on to. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but probably not on a sort of deep sense. So this was nice. I have not watched this in a long time. So I feel like it's become one of those movies where like you'll see just certain clips, sort of bits from it, over the course of years. But this was my first rewatch of it in I don't know how long. So it was nice to revisit.
For sure. And it wasn't just you locking into the music, right? We should note like, the soundtrack for this movie won the Grammy for Album of the Year, was a huge hit. Tim Blake Nelson makes like a shit ton of money off the soundtrack because he's the only actor who ever sings his own vocals. He does it on every song, but on the one that he's like the lead singer, he that is his voice. So he made like an incredible amount of like residuals on the album sales. And like I wonder like was this movie responsible for like
The
stomp
Lumineers.
clap music?
Yeah.
Like,
I think you're onto something because, like, as a musician, so this was a point in my life where I was kind of transitioning from the punk rock clubs and indie rock clubs and frame of mind and kind of transitioning into folk music, like being into like country and folk music for the first time in my life, which I had kind of hated. I hated that type of stuff when I was growing up because it was so prevalent in Mississippi. And it was just like what your parents listened to. So, I gravitated toward punk and hardcore bands and stuff like that when I was a teenager. But then something in the early 20s, and this film, I think specifically, made me kind of be like, wait a minute, this pulls at something within me. That made me start to write songs in like a more of a folk country type of way. I would credit this film with like kind of helping me learn to educate myself more about folk and country and gospel music and stuff like that. So,
definitely.
yeah.
And I think that's something really that the film is very good at is like as satirical as the film is, the music never feels satirical. The music feels like it's just really good. It's really high quality, but it feels like it's like comes from a place of like genuine love for the genres that it's depicting.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's done by T-Bone Burnett, right? Who's like he's like an encyclopedia of American music, is what I've heard. I don't know that, necessarily true, but that's what I've always heard is that he's just like one of those guys that like knows it all. Is a real appreciator of American music. So, yeah.
No, it's a solid. Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest thing that came out of this film was a way that probably most people remember it is the soundtrack. So, I'm sure we'll dig into a lot of those music pieces as we get into it. And speaking of getting into it, I was thinking maybe we can just go through a bit of the plot of what the hell is going on in Oh Brother Where Art Thou? As perhaps best we can. But Andrew, if you wanted to sort of lead us through a general summary of Oh Brother, and then we'll dig in a little deeper on the flip side.
Okay, well, I mean, the plot of this film is three guys busting out of the slammer and trying to get back home, essentially, but also they're in search of this treasure that one of them has stolen. Right? Is that what it is? It's like
that's at least the story, right? The George Clooney character has this treasure that is buried in a place that's going to be flooded in a certain number of days. So there's a timeline.
Right.
There's a timeline until when you can get the treasure. Right.
So we start off with these guys busting out and getting on a train and getting in. I think was one of the funniest moments to me is like that first time that they jump on a train and he says, "In you boys, Smitties." Just like like what does that even mean? Like who is a Smitty? You have no context for these people, these characters, or anything, and it's just like a great opening line. And then as he starts this, I don't remember what all he says, but it's really great. I'm trying to think. The film is just a bunch of movement. What do they go on to next after that? I think it's I'm trying to remember what happens at the beginning.
Yeah, they get there's the baptism, right?
Because the baptism's pretty close to the front.
It's a road movie essentially, right? So yeah, they get kind of seduced by these. They hear this singing, and the two guys who aren't George Clooney get baptized, right? So we've got Tim Blake Nelson and John Turturro, and they're all we should note chained together initially. It's very classic, like, 1930s chain gang.
Right.
They're like working the fields and they run off as like a unit. So like those two get baptized. George Clooney doesn't. Is the idea because he's the talkative one? Is it also the idea that he just like has no room for religion or?
Yeah, he's the
Yep.
doubter of the group. That's his. He's the one who's always trying to talk to them about being rational and understand that there's a reason for everything. So
Yeah,
he doesn't buy it. So,
yeah. Well, there's also the thing that seemingly the other two believe that if they've been baptized, that it somehow absolves them of their actual crimes as well. So he has that one line of like, well, even if it did put you square with the Lord, the state of Mississippi is a little more hard nosed, and so I think there's a lot of fun stuff going on between with that baptism scene, which don't forget it was preceded by after they fall off the railroad car, they are picked up. They are then picked up by the blind man.
oh right, yeah,
That sort of gives them the prophecy.
the prophecy, yeah.
Yeah, about they're going to find some sort of different fortune than the one they're actually seeking, which sort of sets us off. But like you said, Andrew, I love how you're immediately in it. There isn't any exposition really beyond. I guess they start with just the chain gang going.
Yeah.
And they start with the "Oh Muse singing me that line," which I don't know if I was joking when I put this in parentheses, but after that I put, is this from something?
Are you talking about the opening caption?
Yeah, the very opening crawl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I was joking. When I said that. No.
Sarah, my wife said she doesn't think that that's not from the Odyssey. It looks like it's supposed to be from the Odyssey, but apparently the first lines of the Odyssey have been reinterpreted in lots of different ways, and this is just one of those interpretations. But she thinks she thinks it's actually from something else, but we couldn't figure out what it was actually. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, with they definitely, like, it says in the opening title cards, like, that this is an adaptation of the Odyssey, which is really interesting because
Right.
they don't have to say that. Because, like, the Odyssey's in the public domain, you don't need, like, to credit it, especially if you're, like, just kind of vaguely using the plot. So it's interesting that they very much want you as a viewer to be like thinking of this as an adaptation of the Odyssey. And there is that kind of like fun element to the film where like things will happen and you try to match them up to who they are in the poem.
Yeah, and it also that's the one thing I did remember from this film for the longest time, besides the music, was I had always heard how like the Coen Brothers hadn't actually read an adaptation of the Odyssey before making this film. They were just like, yeah, we get the gist of it. Everyone knows the Cyclops and sirens and whatever. So I think that's I think that maybe helps to not be too bound to the source material as well. So.
Man, they did less preparation than I'm doing for our Chris Nolan's Odyssey episode. That's wild.
Wow.
Well, this is the perfect time for me to confess. I've never read the Odyssey myself either. So have either of you, both of you guys? Yeah.
I just read it. I had done it as an audiobook years ago that I later realized was abridged. So I read the like whole thing earlier this year. It's very good. What does it mean to have an opinion on the Odyssey? You know what I mean? It's like the like second oldest story ever, right? But it's a page turner. It's really not, it's very like plotty. So it's very, it's like stuff happening. But it's what's interesting to me about this movie is it does feel like not like, oh, we're trying to adapt like the essence of the Odyssey, and more so like we're using these like culturally osmosified, things that everyone is kind of vaguely aware of, the Cyclops, the sirens, blind prophets, and we're sort of using that to sort of cohere a story about Mississippi,
Yeah, and also in a very similar way, use American tales, sort of pulling, not super specifically, but pulling like, oh yeah, isn't there some musician that sold his soul at a crossroads, and isn't there? So it's sort of it's pulling from in that way, I think, as well from American Tales too.
Definitely, definitely. And like speaking of, right, that's one of the other big things worth talking about. They meet this guy named Tommy Johnson, obviously based
Yeah.
on Robert Johnson, who's a black guitar player who had sold his soul for the devil. And this is when they end up at a recording studio and they record "Man of Constant Sorrow," the big hit song from this movie.
I was just gonna say, I love how they seemingly pull this song out of their ass as a part of the plot. It seems like they haven't rehearsed this at all. They just met this guy, and they go in. They're like, "Oh, we heard you get paid to sing into this can, so we're just gonna go in here and do this." I don't know what to think about that. I don't know what to think about the way people just seem to be musical in this film, like as like a form of being. Does that make any sense?
No, I know exactly what you mean, and this is what I was thinking about with George Clooney's lip syncing, because like I think if we're wanting the film to be realist, I don't know that George Clooney's lip syncing is very good. Like it doesn't look like it's really him singing, but it's really interesting to me the way he plays it. Like he makes these like facial expressions as he's singing that almost make it look to me like he doesn't understand what's happening either. Like he's like, I'm being like taken over by some kind of spirit or something. Does it
Right.
play that way to you guys, or does it seem different?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and part of that is also that they did overdub a lot of the singing in the film, so it does that to me. It's almost like when you're watching a musical, right? And it's like, well, would a gang in 1950s New York really like break into song? No, but like it's the format we're doing, so it's sort of you're allowed to suspend that realism in that regard. Although I guess it's a lot more integrated here with the plot generally. So except for later on with the KKK scene, which is like, oh, okay, we're singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so they record Man of Constant Sorrow. They're the Soggy Bottom Boys.
That's when we're introduced to the governor for the first time too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
'Cause he's coming into the studio as they're exiting the studio, which I think is like a really interesting kind of exchange there that they have. That kind of makes an arc out of the film, So yeah.
Yeah. I also love the idea that the governor of Mississippi is like just wandering through random towns in the Delta to go to various little radio stations. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he talks about it, right? He's like mass communication, he says, as they're
Yeah.
walking
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah.
The idea that like that media is changing the way politics works, right? Which is very interesting, I think, for what the film is thinking about overall, right? And he's of course played by the guy who played the titular Big Lebowski, right?
Oh, that is
returning.
him. I didn't even realize that was him. Yeah.
I don't even know his name offhand, but and what is our sense of this guy, like Pappy O'Daniel? Like he's the incumbent, we know that. And he has issues with his challenger, who's the reform candidate, right? And he's like, "Well, it's tough because I can't do the reform move because I'm in charge, right?" But do we have any sense of like this guy's politics? Does he just sort of represent like politics in itself? Like,
Yeah, it's. I mean, maybe in the sense that there's no, up until the end of the film, there's no real description of what any of these politics actually entail, whether the governor or the reform. Up until very much it does spring up at the end of the film. And I don't know. To me, he feels like a Haley Barber sort of folk, where he's just like, I'm just a business. Like I think they say he's like a flour mill owner or something.
Yeah.
So it's just like, he's like a business guy that's doing the politicking and is like probably corrupt in a lot of ways, but also is like willing to do whatever to, willing to be populist if it's going to also like get him votes as well, right? Like, so
Yeah.
so yeah, that they sort of cross paths with the governor there, and then they are picked up by George Nelson.
George Nelson. Yeah. Which I watched this. Rewatched this with my 12-year-old the other day, who I don't think he'd seen it. He probably saw it when he was like 4 or something, when we were watching, so he doesn't remember it. So this is essentially the first time he's seen it as a 12, as a person, as a human who can remember things. And I had to explain to him who Babyface Nelson was, because he doesn't know any of this stuff. And so the George Nelson thing, I think, is, to me, the one thing that kind of stands out in this film is like that one character that's kind of like, what are they doing here?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, because I'm not sure. Did George Nelson come through Mississippi? Is that something that I'm supposed to know? I don't.
This to me seems like they just sort of pulled. They're like, it's like 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a bank robber gangster guy. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of him as like a Midwest guy. I can't say I'm like intimately familiar with, his his movements, but he's kind of like the character who's kind of just representing that kind of, Babyface Nelson, John Dillinger, Great Depression era criminal, right? And he, of course, commits the cardinal sin of killing cows, which is, of course, in reference in part to the I think it's the oxen of the god of the sun that Odysseus's men kill.
Oh, okay.
Deep cut.
Like,
Deep cut. Okay.
Yeah. The Odyssey is like basically just a series of like someone selling a group of dudes like, hey, listen, like just whatever you do, don't do this thing, and they're like, got it, and then they go and do it, and then they're like, they get all fucked up, and they're like, what the hell,
Yeah. Wow. You're really telling me they didn't read the Odyssey, but they were able to pull that out for this? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I would never believe a director in general, right? I think, especially the Coen brothers. I feel like they're pretty cagey,
Yeah. So they meet him. That he robs a bank in Itabena, Mississippi. I loved all the little Mississippi references.
Okay, my problem with the Mississippi reference, I like that they're using actual names, but Tishomingo and Itabena are very far from each other, and they're not like in the right directions either. They're like, it's like someone who doesn't know the geography of the state, or they're just using the names because they think they sound good, I guess.
And in their defense, they do sound very good, but because not Robert Johnson, but whatever name they use, he's Tommy Johnson. He's going to Tishomingo, right?
Yeah,
and they somehow are going through Itabena, and then
right,
no, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but
it's kind of Odyssey-ish though, right? Because it's like I haven't necessarily compared the Odyssey with like a map of Greece or anything, but I do believe part of like the deal with the Odyssey is like he keeps trying, he can't just go straight. Like he tries to go the right direction and he's constantly sort of pulled in these weird other directions, right? Which is kind of like the logic of the film a little bit, At the same time, I also think the Coen brothers probably don't know where these places are.
Right.
I think they're also just trying to kind of produce this sense of like, okay, these guys have a clear goal, like Odysseus, right? Get back home, right? And just stuff keeps happening that pulls them way off course, potentially,
Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. That stand corrected. Yeah.
Yeah, so there they go. They rob the bank in Itabena, and then somebody makes the mistake of calling Babyface Nelson. It's like whispering, like, "Isn't that Babyface Nelson?" He's very upset by the nickname Babyface. So he gets really sad and wanders off that evening just into the
Yeah.
woods. So I guess then after this, they encounter the sirens.
The sirens. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What are y'all's thoughts on the siren scene?
I mean, so this is the thoughts that I had on this. This is like the 20th watch I've had of this film. I've seen it probably 20 times. I noticed in the scene right before this, Gillian Welch, who's the singer-songwriter, she's on the soundtrack a lot. She's one of the voices of the sirens. And she's in the scene before that where she's asking for the record of Man of Constant Sorrow. That's actually her as like a cameo in the film. And then it switches to the siren scene with her voice. And I just thought that was really interesting that they put her right there, and then her voice is on there with I think she's saying that with what's the other singer's name? I'm blanking on what the other singer's name is. But anyways, yeah, I remember
it was Emmylou Harris, Alison Krauss, Julian Welch. Yeah.
Julian Welch. Yeah. So that's the three, which are like three iconic voices and like Americana, folk, country music. But the song choice is interesting to me. It's like a lullaby, right? Yeah.
And there's no instrumentation, right? It's just like a three-part vocal harmony.
Yeah.
And it like enchants them into this, kind of, just I guess like in the Odyssey, right? Interesting, like, because there's not a ton of women characters in this movie besides Holly Hunter, right?
Yeah.
And
she's not till the end.
Yeah. So it's like kind of this weird, it's been a very, masculine movie up to this point. It's been like, sweaty guys in like sleeping in hay together and like running around. And then you get this kind of very spectral image of femininity and spectral sound of femininity, right? This like very ethereal that kind of comes in. And then, of course, they then think that John Turturro turns into a frog.
Yeah. That's sort of the big reveal. Is there's a frog inside of his his clothes that have remained there. I like how and we all know the sirens, right? Like that's like probably the most obvious thing from the Odyssey. So I'm sure everyone watching this is like, okay, these are obviously sirens. And then but I like that they're getting George Clooney's character drunk because I guess they assume that he's not going to fall for it. So they're just constantly shoving that jug of moonshine in his face through the whole scene. I thought was great. So yeah, they think that Pete is a hoardy toad, and so they put him in a shoebox and go to have lunch and encounter John Goodman's character. Yeah, who is essentially the Cyclops, but is Daniel Big Dan Teague.
Yeah.
So, which it's John Goodman. He always kills it. I feel so. Classic Coen Brothers. Actor.
And he's giving kind of like like Big Daddy from Cat in a Hot Tin Roof energy in this, big Southern guy in like the white suit, but he of course turns out to be completely full of shit.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's not necessarily because you think the Cyclops, he's like kind of like brawn, right? Which obviously John Goodman brings. But it also this version of the Cyclops feels very like Southern Gothic to me, very like Flannery O'Connor, like the manipulative Bible salesman, the sort of like dark underbelly to the ostensible like politeness of the South, right? He like invites them out to a picnic that they're paying for, but somehow makes it seem like he's treating them by allowing them to buy him lunch.
Yeah.
So that's great. And of course, now that they're out in the outside of town, having their picnic, he beats their ass and opens the shoebox, thinking it's going to be, something valuable, and it's a toad. So he's, pissed off and crushes the toad that they think is Pete, and swaggers off. So
I think this is something that's always confused me, and I didn't really get a good answer this time when I watched it. So, but I think I did. Did the sirens turn in Pete for like a bounty? Like, how does he get separated from the group? Like, what happened?
I think that's the idea. We don't really see it, but I think the idea
They
is
don't really
essentially
say it either.
Yeah. I think the idea is they tricked him somehow and turned him in for the bounty. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why did they not turn the other ones in for I don't understand. Like, why is it just him? That to me, it's like the one plot point that's a little.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They needed to separate. They needed to separate them somehow.
Yeah.
And this is their way of thinking to do it. So I don't know.
Yeah. But somehow that happens, right? But
Right.
as of now, they think he's dead. They think he's a frog and he's been
Right.
killed by.
Yeah.
I also love that Big Dad's like, because you're kind of from when he starts talking to them in the restaurant, you know he's trying to con them in some way. And so you're kind of waiting for like, what's the trick gonna be? And then the trick is just that he like takes a branch off a tree and beats them unconscious.
Yeah. So that's great. So then we're also, I think at this point after that, introduced to Ulysses' wife.
Yeah, Holly Hunter.
Yeah.
Holly Hunter, most known for Star Trek Starfleet Academy, of course. The recently canceled Star Trek show. I know we were all thinking it. She is re-engaged. So of course Everett gets into a fight with her new fiance and just gets his ass kicked. Because the fiance is bona fide is the
Yeah. Great physical acting from George Clooney throughout this movie, right? Like from the beginning of getting yanked off the train by the chain, getting his ass kicked in various ways. He's kind of like almost like a human Looney Tune. I feel like in a lot of this,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and this is, I think, when I think of the you were saying, Andrew, your friends just quoting the lines repeatedly. I think of "I'm a Dapper Dan Man" is certainly one of them. But then the bona fide, I think, is one of the other ones. Like he's bona fide, I think, was another one that always stuck with me from earlier viewings of this. So they're having a rough time. They get kicked out of the Woolsworth as well.
Get banned from the Woolsworth.
Yeah, stay out. I love that. There's that brief later line where I think
It's like, is this just the one branch or all of them?
Delmar's security. What do you think? I love that. But they're in a movie theater, and a bunch of the chained prisoners come in for a showing, including Pete, who they realize at that point was actually turned in, has been captured by the law. So
this is also very much drawing on a scene from Sullivan's Travels.
Okay.
Where like the director gets like arrested at some point and like gets taken to a movie theater, which is actually where he learns the value of comedy. So they're definitely like drawing on this here. But he's trying to warn them that the treasure is they're gonna get caught. Like they're waiting for them.
Yeah, do not seek the treasure, he says. So they immediately break him out. I think it's like the subsequent scene. They break him out and they're back together.
I love how
again.
little the movie deals with that too. Like they're not like, let's do a 30-minute sequence explaining how they do this. It's just, and that's part of the magic of the genre this movie's in is like, it's an era where you can at least imagine that escaping from prison, at least momentarily, is like not that hard.
Yeah.
It's another Looney Tunes type of thing too, because they always show up with bolt cutters Like at the right
Yeah.
time. There's another time later when bolt cutters. They just happen to have bolt cutters.
And,
at
and
the time.
Everett is
Yeah.
like on top of Delmar.
Yeah.
And I love like the very. I think Tim Blake Nelson is great with just the timing of so many of his lines. I think that it's great. Like right at the end of that scene, he's just like says something like, "Well, that's all I've got," and then you can see George Clooney sort of falling over right as the scene cuts. So I think it's just very very nicely done. So. They're all back together, which is good because it sort of sets us up for really the final act here, where we revisit the governor, where they're talking about the campaign, and we see the reform candidate as well. Who is sweeping away corruption or what have you with a literal broom.
Yeah. It's a very vague, like, populist campaign, right? It's
Yes.
giving kind of like Trump draining the swamp kind of stuff, right?
It
Like,
is, yeah.
I'm gonna
So
come in and I'm gonna clean it up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and that I think the line from the governor's campaign people is they say, "Well, it's a well-run campaign, a midget and broom and whatnot." So it's like this idea of what counts as well-run politics, in this sense, and certainly there's one idea of what counts. This I think then. We come to the big KKK scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They literally like stumble, which is like, again, like very much in the kind of like Odyssey. This is a movie about like wandering, right? They don't really like end up there for any particular reason, but they're fighting and they kind of stumble upon a KKK rally.
And that we get another musical number from I don't know all the ranks of the KKK. The Cyclops, oh yeah, Cyclops is a rank. Do you think the Cyclops is a Cyclops in the? Oh, okay, right? Because like
wait,
that's one of the
Cyclops
ranks.
is an actual rank in the KKK.
I think it's something like that.
That's
like
crazy.
Grand Cyclops. I could be wrong. I don't want to act like
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, I think the viewers will be.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're right, man. This is crazy.
I don't know how I know that.
The chief officer of a den was called the Grand Cyclops, who appointed. I'm sorry, I have to read all of this. Who appointed 2 Nighthawks, a Grand Turk, a Grand Sentinel, a Grand Magi, and a Grand Ensign in addition to his Grand Scribe. I love how it's like at the end, like, of course, like it goes without saying that he has a Grand Scribe.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I wonder if actually, because the Cyclops character shows back up again, John Goodman, I wonder if he is meant to be a Grand Cyclops. I can only assume so. But the head, who maybe it's the Grand Wizard, whoever, also sings another tune sung by Ralph Stanley, is the voice of that one. But it turns out to be the challenging contender for the governor's race, is the head of this KKK meeting where they are going to lynch Tommy Johnson, is the plan. And so the three main characters go ahead, and I like how they just very quickly they just like beat up the color guard and put on their outfits. I like that we don't dilly dally with this. We just get right to it. And they go in there. I don't know what their
This
plan
is why.
was
Sorry,
be.
not to interrupt.
Yeah.
But like, this is why every movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes now, because like they would be like, well, we have to like give a like thorough and like rational scene of like how they succeed in getting the KKK uniforms. That's pointless. We all know they're gonna get the uniforms. Like, just do it. You
Show
know,
the
like
feet, show the
whim
feet
bam.
dragging into the bush, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
Which is
entire
what they do.
point of
Yeah.
cinema is that you can cut from one thing to another and you don't have to show, we don't have to show every time a character uses the bathroom or like takes a drink of water, like trim these things down, please.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if they had a plan, what it was going to be, but they're essentially like, "Hey, Tommy, we're here to rent." He's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that. I think my time has come." But the Cyclops character recognizes. Does he like recognize their voice or the Dapper
No,
Dan?
he smells. He smells the Dapper
He
Dan.
smells the Dapper Dan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So he comes up and rips off their hoods. We get the hilarious line that the color guard is colored with like a shock exasperation. And they all think that they are black, right? That's
Yeah, which I don't entirely understand why.
Well, before, if you notice, so before they have the fight scene where they stumble upon this, when they're just walking and they're confessing that there is no treasure, during that little walk there, if you notice, they're rubbing dirt all over their faces.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're like trying to disguise themselves, and so they have this black soot all over their faces,
okay.
and so that's why they think they're not white, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. That makes sense. I didn't really clock that this watch, but yeah, so he thinks that they're he uses the word miscegenated
Right.
among others to describe them.
Yeah.
And they sort of just kind of fuck everything up. Like, they like they throw the Confederate flag, and it looks like it's gonna like skewer Big Dan in the eye, but then he catches it. But then they knock the burning cross over.
They cut it with bolt cutters. These bolt cutters show up at this
The
point.
bolt cutters again.
They're like all kneel down and the cut. It's very cartoonish. Yeah, it's like
Yeah. So yeah, they rescue Tommy Johnson and get out of there, and yeah.
Which is sort of a classic Western type of scene where you like these are in a lot of Western movies where you like save the person who's about to be executed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we should talk about what has come to light at this point, right? Amongst all these like adventures, is that there isn't really a treasure, right?
Right.
It's that George Clooney's character Everett wants to get his wife back before she gets married to the new guy. That was the actual time limit, not the flood of the treasure. And he essentially has lied to these guys because they were chained to him, and he needed to convince them to be complicit in the escape. And of course, like John Turturro reveals, he only had 2 weeks on his sentence. So people aren't happy, right? But they do eventually decide to all help him try to win Holly Hunter back.
Yep. So it's at what is the event where this final big?
I think it's like a fundraiser.
I think it's like a Homer Stokes event.
Yeah.
I think it says Homer Stokes outside.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the new husband is
Like a
Homer
campaign
Stokes'
event.
campaign manager, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they just walk right onto stage and
disguised as hillbillies, to be clear.
Yes.
You know.
A very like ZZ Top sort of vibe going. I always thought for this. And yada yada yada. They do Man of Constant Sorrow essentially, and the crowd realizes that it's the Soggy Bottom Boys when they start doing
because this
that.
song has become a huge hit in the meantime, unbeknownst to them.
Yeah, so it becomes so the crowd goes wild, but then of course Homer Stokes arrives, very upset that his clan meeting was interrupted, And so he walks in there and I guess recognizes them and tries to rally the crowd to his side that the Soggy Bottom Boys are, that they are not white. And also he learned because the suitor sort of comes over and whispers in his ear. He's like, they're also criminals, right? So, and the crowd is not having it. He does not win over the crowd. The crowd's like booing him, and he gets dragged out of the hall. Right? They bring in like a big pole and drag him out. Um, and I think that then the current governor, Pappy O'Daniel, sees an opportunity there and goes like as they go back to singing. He like goes up and starts dancing towards them, just sort of inserting himself into the song. And then what? He's essentially like they support me. They're endorsing me.
Yeah. He's like, you support me, right? And then
Well, he
essentially-
sort of conducts a transaction on stage where he's like,
Mm.
"I'll pardon you if you support me," because he's an opportunist. You see, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're pardoned. So their crimes are now pardoned, and it seems like we're good to go. And I believe the Holly Hunter character is almost won over with all of this, except for one thing, which is she needs the ring from the homestead.
The original
And
ring.
The original ring. So they do need to go back to the homestead, which is where the treasure is supposed to be buried, correct? And
Yeah. And where the police are waiting to ambush them.
Yep. And ambushed they are. And this character who's been sort of lingering in the background the entire film, which is Sheriff Cooley, finally arrives there. I don't know. I guess he's supposed to be Poseidon, sort of vibes.
Yeah, he also
constantly
just
chasing
reads
them.
very devil to me, though.
Yeah.
He feels very, there's always fire reflecting on his sunglasses. So I guess like if you want to make him fit to the Odyssey, he's Poseidon, because like Poseidon is the one that's like really pissed off at Odysseus. But he also feels very much sort of like sort of like Southern American depiction of the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And he's given this whole speech about how, they say they're parted, and he's like, well, we don't have any radio out here, so we haven't heard any of that. And it's like, make peace, because they're gonna hang him right there. But then at the last moment, they are saved, because this flood that has sort of been talked about the whole film, the TVA is flooding the valley. It comes on through the valley and saves them through flooding. And you see a scene with just a whole bunch of Dapper Dan cans floating in the water, and Tommy Johnson is hanging on to like the rolling stand that has the ring supposedly in it. So they are able to secure it. They all survive. They make it. And then, you have the little bit at the end where Holly Hunter's character is like, that's not the right ring. And so that's the sort of the closing, as the old blind man on the railroad cart is sort of, rolling down the way there. But now we sort of see it's supposed to be like progress and stuff, because they've electrified the area after flooding it. So I think we've essentially covered it. I mean, it is a story, like it's like the Odyssey. There's so many little bits, but I think we've hit on the big ones. Unless I missed anything here.
No, and the much like in the Odyssey, right? It ends with like the sort of restoration of the family.
Yeah,
and the expulsion of the suitors.
Yep. Yeah. So there you have it. All right, now it is time for us to dig a little deeper into some things that have absolutely nothing to do with the film Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? This is a little game that we like to call Vox Populi. All right, so this film is called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. There's no points for that. But so what I have done is I have collected some trivia about famous brothers. Okay?
Much like the Coens who made this film.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great point.
So there's not any
yeah.
questions about them.
No, there actually aren't. I chose much more famous and skilled brother pairings than
Well, the
than
Coen brothers are
those two
also
hacks.
they're broken up right now, right? So like we really shouldn't even be
Yeah.
talking about them as a unit anymore.
It's true. It's true. So this has to do with famous brothers. So Venus Serena Williams does not work. Those are sisters, in fact. So we will focus on some famous brothers. We're going to have a few rounds, and you can earn some points through these rounds, and it'll sort of ramp up, and there's more points that you can earn in the subsequent rounds. So starting with round one,
All
it's
right.
worth 1 point. We'll see how we do here, and we will start with you, Andrew, as our guest. Andrew, you may be familiar with the Manning family, has a few connections with Ole Miss. And of course, we all know Eli Manning, who was quarterback for University of Mississippi. We all know Peyton Manning, who was a betrayer, who decided to go to University of Tennessee instead of Ole Miss. But there is a third Manning brother besides those two. Can you tell me who is the third Manning brother?
That would be Cooper Manning.
You are correct. Cooper Manning is the, I believe, eldest of the three Manning brothers, who was also a footballer in high school and was going to play at Ole Miss, but was forced to stop because he was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, which sounds absolutely miserable. And so he seems to be doing just fine. I mean, they're the Mannings, and that's
What does he do now?
His son is the quarterback for Texas now.
Yep.
Arch Manning is his son. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he was. I guess I never really thought about who Arch Manning's dad was. I was just sort of like, up another Manning.
Another Manning.
It never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's there's that. So you do get a point for that. Very nicely done, Andrew. Good memory there. We'll come to you, Devin. Devin, you may be familiar with a man named John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah.
Are you? Okay, that's good. That would have been would have really fucked up this question if you're not familiar.
I mean,
with him.
I don't agree with his politics, but I love his acting.
In fact, he came from an acting family, Devin, but he was sort of more of the second fiddle to his brother, who is considered by many to be the greatest American actor of the 19th century. My question is, what is the name of John Wilkes Booth's brother?
Well, I sure don't know. So we're kind of going here with just sort of like, okay, what's a common first name?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say maybe they were trying to do, like people sometimes name their kids with like the same first initial.
Sure.
And so his name is John Wilkes Booth. So
That is correct.
I almost did just say John Booth. Because without the middle name, it sounded like different. It was like, oh, John Booth. Let's go with James Booth.
That is incorrect. God, John Booth just sounds so different than John Wilkes Booth. That's just his name. I mean, they're like an artsy family. They're going to get creative with their children's names. So, in fact, his name was Edwin Booth.
Edwin Booth,
considered
man.
by many to be the greatest American actor of the 19th century. So, unfortunately,
I don't know much about actors
yeah.
before they were filmed. I do now that I'm looking him up, though. I do recognize this photo of him playing
Yeah.
I think it's Hamlet. I've seen this photo before.
That's what he's most known for is his portrayal with Hamlet, which I think he really started doing after the assassination. But just an interesting reminder of the sort of things that people are most famous for. So apologies to all the actors out there. The acting doesn't you don't get remembered for that, I suppose. So Andrew, you are in the lead, 1-0, which brings us to round 2. These are each worth 2 points. And your question is, which U.S. senator has a twin brother, and what occupation did they both used to have?
Current U.S. senator?
Yes.
Like right now?
Right now.
Oh, I have no idea. If I had to, can I get a hint as to like what state they're from or something like that?
That's a pretty big hint because there
That's a
aren't
big
too
hint.
many. Here's what I'll do. I will tell you it's if I were to draw a line down the middle of the country, it would be to the west. So it's not like Rhode Island.
Okay, I got you. Man, I don't know. If I see West, I don't even know any West Coast senators, honestly.
I don't associate with that nonsense.
I don't know anything on the other side of the Mississippi. What do you ask? Yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea. I really don't.
Okay. Well, you could just name a U.S. senator.
Let's say Ted Cruz.
God, can you imagine if Ted Cruz had a twin brother? Oh my goodness.
Ted Cruz is actually totally exonerated for all the times that he's gone on vacation during like major Texas disasters.
Yeah.
That was just his brother. He was actually working tirelessly.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't say identical twin. It could be.
That's true, but it is in fact an identical twin. This is Senator Mark Kelly, whose identical twin brother Scott
Arizona.
Kelly
Yeah.
was a NASA astronaut along with him. And so they did a lot of research into what happens when one person goes up into space and the other one stays. And you can do that because they're identical twins, so you can sort of see what changes happen to the body when you go into space.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so they are twins.
I was actually going to, if I had been given an opportunity to steal, I was going to guess Mark Kelly. But the reason was, I think he's literally the only senator I can think of. Because I didn't robocall. I did like canvassing calls for like in his district to try to get him to like vote for the PRO Act years ago or something.
How did that go, Devin?
It didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah. So famously, the reason he didn't vote for the PRO Act because Devin was unconvincing to his constituents. Constituency. So, Devin, you have a chance to take the lead, actually, because this is worth 2 points.
All right.
And the question is, the OG brothers, Cain and Abel, why did Cain kill Abel? And where in the Bible did it happen?
Well, it happened in Genesis.
Okay.
I believe that Cain kills Abel because God favors Abel's sacrifice, which I believe Abel sacrifices a livestock of some kind, like a cattle, and Cain, I think, sacrifices like plant matter of some kind, like like corn or something. You know, they would have had corn. But,
yeah.
And then he's jealous, basically.
Yeah, you are correct, Devin.
Nice.
That is entirely true. So you're on the
Not
board.
bad for having
points.
never been baptized, much like George Clooney.
I wasn't sure if you'd be able to pull that out, but you got it very specifically down as well. It's just like God's like, you brought me plants? You're supposed to kill animals. And then, Cain's like, well, fuck, this is bullshit. I'm a farmer. I grow plants. But my greatest is like then when God confronts him, he's like, "What? What's the problem, God?" It's like God knows, man. It's God. He's gonna know that you killed your brother. It's not. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So yes. So Devin, you have taken the lead going into round 3.
All right.
But now there's going to be a lot of points coming into this round because I'm going to give you a group of 3 brothers, and there is a bonus which with each of these questions as well. But if you cannot name all 3, I will give the other person a chance to steal. So you can earn actually up to 4 points for each of these because there's a bonus question. But the other person can steal if you can't name all of the brothers. And we'll begin with you, Andrew. And we will see how well do you know the 3 members of the Jonas Brothers.
Oh, terribly. I don't think I know one of their names. John Jonas?
That is incorrect.
I really don't know. I just know them as the Jonas Brothers. I have no idea, honestly. Yeah.
Well, Devin?
Devin?
Do you know? You can steal up to 3 points here.
I know that Joe Jonas is one.
Correct.
The other 2, I have no idea, but going by my strategy of like, well, what if they just all have J names? Let's say, and we said John Jonas is out, right? That was Andrew's guess.
Yeah.
So what are let's go with James Jonas.
You're doing it again. He's doing it James again.
And what's another J name? Jeff Jonas.
Both of those are wrong, but you will get 1 point for Joe Jonas. The other 2 Jonas brothers are Kevin Jonas and Nick Jonas.
Oh, Nick Jonas does sound familiar now.
Yes. But Andrew, I will give you a chance to steal a bonus point, but it's probably, I mean, based on where we're at, we'll see how we do. There actually is a 4th Jonas brother who is not in the group. But he did voice act in Ponyo, the Miyazaki film in 2009. So he's done things. Do you know the name of the 4th Jonas brother? Or do you want to give me a name and guess? It's
we'll see. Based on Kevin, what was
you might
Kevin?
say that he did it his way, his own way. You know.
Oh.
All the other Jonas Brothers were doing their thing. He said, "I did it my way."
Frank?
Yes, Frankie Jonas is
Jonas?
the 4th. Like Frankie, that's always annoyed me. Like Frankie said, I did it my way.
I think we've talked about this before on the podcast somehow, but I do think that's the worst lyric in the history of music.
I think
it is.
Yeah.
You're just fucking like, who are you to refer to Frank Sinatra as Frankie, first of all? And like, just in the middle of a song that isn't about Frank Sinatra, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to establish your characters. You don't, you know.
All right, Devin, you are up by 1, so it is 2-3. You have the lead. My question is, can you name me the 3 brothers who compose the Bee Gees? Or did compose, I suppose.
The Bee Gees. What are their names?
That's the question.
Well, you've got the falsetto guy. And then the other 2. So their last name was Gibb, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so trying to just any name with Gibb sound familiar. Well, let's get, it hasn't gotten me wrong so far. Let's go with James Gibb.
James Gibb. Devin, that is incorrect. There is no James Gibb. Did you want to try 2 others?
Now I'm just they're British, I believe. I actually don't know if that's true.
We'll chat on that. It's not really true.
It's not real. What could that possibly mean?
Well, get your 2 wrong answers, and we'll get to it.
Let's go with Mick. Mick Gibb.
Uh-huh.
And let's go with Tony. Tony Gibb.
None of those are correct. So that is a 0 for 3. There will be a bonus question for you as well. But first off, Andrew, you have a chance to steal up to 3 points. Can you name any of the Bee Gees that were the Gibb brothers?
I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to guess Barry and Benny. Something like that. Bobby, maybe? one of those. It's a B, right?
Yeah, well, you are correct. Barry Gibb is one of them.
Yeah.
So you get a point for that, which ties it up 3-3. But Devin, you have a chance for a bonus question. It's really quite simple. There is a fourth Gibb brother who was not in the Bee Gees. Can you tell me his name?
Well, we've established that they're into bees. So let's think. So Barry's taken.
Yeah.
Balthazar.
Unfortunately, that is not correct. Barry, Robin, and Maurice were the 3 Gibb brothers that were in the Bee Gees. And I don't know why, but the youngest one just wasn't invited, although he was a famous singer. Andy Gibb was also had a pretty successful solo career, but just wasn't in the Bee Gees. So I don't know what that was all about. So Andy Gibb
family dynamics are complicated, you know?
That is very true. They were all born on the Isle of Man, which has a weird thing where it is not considered part of the United Kingdom, but it is governed by Great Britain. And so it has this weird status where they're technically, I guess they would be considered citizens of the UK. They have the UK, I don't know, it's weird monarchical stuff, but it's
kind of like a
not
Falkland
considered
situation.
Yeah,
but
maybe a
much
slightly
closer.
less contentious, but yeah. Yeah. So we are now tied up 3-3, which brings us to round 4, the second to last round. You'll never believe it. I'm going to give you a couple of families with 4 brothers. I'd like you to try and name them, and you can steal if you can't get it. We'll begin with you, Andrew. For up to 4 points, can you name any of the 4 Baldwin brothers?
There's Alec.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I can see the other ones, but I can't think of their names. Alec's the only one I know. Wait a minute. Alec. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't.
Just leaving it at Alec?
Just leaving it at Alec.
Well, Alec is correct, so you get a point for that. Devin, do you know any of the other Baldwin brothers?
Yes, you've got Stephen and William.
Yes.
Oh, Stephen, yeah.
Well, Billy, but William.
Billy, yeah, but legal. I assume.
Yeah,
I could have gotten fucked there if Jimmy Butler, the basketball player, his legal name is Jimmy. It's not short for James. So yeah. So those 2 for sure.
There's always a 4th.
And then the 4th is not ringing a bell. I don't know, Nick.
No, the 4th brother is named Daniel Baldwin.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, these are all just they're pretty, there you go.
Standard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically Alec Baldwin and then any of the it was whichever other Baldwin picked up the phone after Alec said no, right?
Well, famously there's the restoration of
Stephen Baldwin.
Of Stephen Baldwin so that's
one of the all-time great YouTube videos. Look up, listener, the restoration of Stephen Baldwin on YouTube and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're now at Andrew, you have 4 points. Devin, you are at 5 points, but you could really take it away here if you can name for me any of the 4 Bush brothers.
Oh, wait, we're talking about the children of George H.W. Bush.
Correct.
Okay, so you've got George W.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Jeb. Maybe there's a James in there.
We're really banking for that. Okay.
And then maybe George Herbert Walker Bush. Would they have named a kid Herbert? I'm trying to remember. I feel like there's another like powerful family in the Bush tree somewhere that maybe they could have given as like a first name, kind of thing. But feeling pretty confident about James, and let's pair that with maybe they reused Prescott.
Okay.
So I'll go with Prescott.
Okay. George W. Bush is correct. You get a point for that. None of the others are correct. Now you might be thinking,
so his name isn't Jeb is some kind of like
I cannot give it to you because it is so infuriating. Do you know what his first off, Andrew, would you like to steal any of these?
Do you know Jeb? I thought it was Jeb also. And I don't know the other two. So
okay. Well, the other two, we've got Marvin Bush and Neil Bush. Sure.
Never.
And I can't give you Jeb because this is so infuriating. His name is not Jeb Bush. His name is John Ellis Bush. Put those abbreviations together, it forms Jeb. John Ellis Bush. So that's why he goes by Jeb Bush.
John Ellis Bush. Yeah.
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 John Ellis Bush. So,
man, if only it had been James.
I know, it was so close. You were so close. Man, it's just like, seriously, his name isn't even Jeb. That's ridiculous. So that brings us to round 5, and Andrew, you're at 4. Devin, you're at 6. Andrew, as the guest, I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to give you. There are 5 brothers within this group. As many as you can name, and Devin, you can steal any that Andrew cannot. So this is really a chance to even things out here. So Andrew, can you give me the Jackson 5?
Oh, well, there's Michael, obviously.
Correct.
Tito. That's really all I know. Jesus. I'm terrible at this. Janet is not one of the Jackson 5, right?
No.
She's the daughter. She's the daughter of one of the Jackson 5. So.
Yeah.
Wait, Randy. Is it Randy one of them? Is Randy one of them?
Randy is not one of them.
Is not one of them?
But Randy is a Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's not one of the Jackson 5.
Let me just check
the
here.
Baseball pitcher? Or is there another Randy?
No, the American Idol host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, Randy Jackson is like one of the great pitchers of all time, but he's definitely not related to Michael Jackson.
I'm going to give you a point for Randy Jackson because he is a member of the Jacksons.
Okay.
Which is what the Jackson 5 later became known as. I guess maybe when he joined, you can't have the Jackson 5 with six kids.
But he's not a brother, is he?
Yes, Randy.
He's a brother.
Stephen Randall Jackson is one of the Jackson brothers. So I will give you points. I will give you 3 points, Andrew, for Michael, Tito, and for Randy, even though Randy is sort of the 6th of the Jackson 5. So that brings you up to 7 points. Devin, do you know any of the other Jackson 5 besides Michael and Tito?
So I do feel like there's a J name. And I don't think it was James. But I cannot remember. I think there might be a Jerome or a Jermaine. I'm gonna guess Jermaine.
Okay.
Is that right?
That is correct. Jermaine Jackson is one of the Jackson 5.
All right. And so how many more guesses do I get?
Well, you said you gave me 2 J's, so I'll give you one more guess.
Well, scared money don't make money, James.
Incorrect, but Jackie Jackson was another of the Jackson 5, as well as Marlon Jackson. So many
Marlon
apologies.
Is familiar.
But I think hopefully they're used to it at this point. That people are like, okay, Michael.
Okay,
Tito,
I'm sorry. No, not to hijack the game, but would
Yeah.
anyone like to guess what Jackie Jackson's real first name is?
Oh, no. What is it?
Sigmund.
Oh.
Freud.
Oh. Huh.
Sigmund Esco Jackson is his legal name.
How about that? You don't hear a lot of Sigmunds these days.
No.
Yeah. All right. Quickly, Devin, we've got your round 5. It would only be fair. Who are the 5 Marx brothers?
Oh, you're talking about the comedians.
Yes. Did Karl Marx have a brother?
Not as far as I know, but okay, so Groucho,
Uh-huh.
Harpo.
Huh.
Can I think of any besides that? Groucho Marx, Harpo Marx. I'm not going to be able to get it. I'm going to be annoyed when I hear it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say Arlo.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say James. And then I'm going to say Sigmund.
Okay. Well, Harpo and Groucho are correct. And then we have Chico Marx,
Of course.
Gummo Marx, and of course, James Marx. No,
Wait, really?
Of course not. No, of course not, Devin. Zeppo Marx is the last one.
Yeah.
Zeppo.
Oh.
I didn't give you a chance to steal, Andrew. Did you know any of those?
I need Zeppo, actually. So.
I'm going to give you a point
give
for
him a
that.
point
My
for
bad.
Zeppo, you know.
A
Yeah.
terrible game leader here. Gummo and Zeppo did leave the group over time, so Chico, Harpo, and Groucho were the trio. So I will give you a point, Andrew, and Devin, you also knew too as well. And we'll come to our final question, which of course does not involve those hacks, the Coen brothers, but it involves the best brother duo, writers, directors. I am, of course, referring to the Duffer Brothers, everyone's favorite showrunners of Stranger Things that we all know and love and respect. This is a 2-parter question. You will get 1 point for whoever is closest to the first answer and 1 point for whoever is closest to the second answer. So it's anybody's game. It's currently Andrew at 8, Devin with 9. Andrew could take the lead. Devin could hold his lead. So let's see. And I'll have you type your answer into the private chat to me. So I'll get your answer. So here it is. It's a 2-parter. The first question is, when did Stranger Things premiere? And just give me a specific date. I know you probably don't know the specific, but then I can, don't just give me a
you want
year.
a date? You want a date and a year?
Yeah, give me a date and a year, just so I can see who gets closest. And the second question is, how many episodes of Stranger Things were made? Of course,
man.
the magnum opus of our time, Stranger Things. When did it premiere? And how many episodes were made?
Man, I cannot tell you how difficult it is for me to remember, because I remember when that show came out, and it feels like it could be any amount of time. I'm trying to remember what was like the most recent Tinder date I had been on at the time. The number of episodes is tough. I was out after season 1, to be honest with you. So
Andrew is locked.
all right, I am locked too.
Okay. Wow. So, Devin, you said that the show premiered on September 11th, 2015. Andrew,
I had to pick a date somehow.
Andrew said the show premiered on September 11th, 2019.
No fucking way.
Oh.
You're on the right podcast, Dan.
Yeah. Fantastic. Devin, you said that there were 55 episodes. Andrew, you said that there were 50 episodes.
Oh man, tight.
So, I will start with there were 42 episodes of Stranger Things. 42. That's it. 42 fucking episodes of this show that we are meant to think great things about.
I'm actually surprised it's that low.
Me too. Yeah.
I don't know how many seasons there were, but I was like, it felt like it had to be more than I thought, so I tried to go kind of high.
No, there were 5 seasons. Season 1, 3, and 5 had 8 episodes. Season 2 and 4 had 9 episodes.
Yeah, my logic was 5 seasons and 10 episodes a season.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. So
yeah, and your logic, Andrew, would be sound had they not taken like years to make each season of this goddamn show.
Which is always how you want to approach things when you're working with a young cast. You want to just take your time. There's no hurry.
So the finale was December 31st, 2025. The previous season 4, they released it in 2 parts because why not? But the second part was in July of 2022. So they took 3 years and change to make the season 5. Season 3 was July 4th, 2019. They took 3 years to make season 4 as well. Season 2 came out in 2017, and season 1 came out in 2016, which means that Devin, in a very sad state of how things work with how media is created these days, you get the point for that, while Andrew gets the point for the number of episodes. It took them almost a decade to make 42 episodes of this fucking show.
Crazy.
And which leaves us with Andrew with 9 points. Devin, you have actually earned 10 points today.
Oh man, if only it was 11.
Yeah. If only. So Devin, for you are, because and actually I guess your James strategy did not help you at all. But perhaps because you knew some of the Marx Brothers and why
Marx
Cain killed Abel. You knew enough
It really
of the
all
Marx
came
Brothers.
down to thank God I knew why Cain killed Abel.
Yes, so you have the dubious distinction of being the winner of this week's Vox Populi.
So, one of the scenes that I was so struck by this time watching the movie, and I actually didn't, it even plays different for me now in retrospect because I had forgotten the twist when I was rewatching, of that the treasure was a lie. But there's the scene when they're all kind of sitting or lying in the dark, and they talk about what they are going to do with the money when they get it, right? And their dreams. And I was really struck by the kind of political undercurrent, the political thematics of the dreams that they have, right? I think it's John Turturro. He dreams of opening a restaurant. And but the way he describes it is he's I'll be the maitre d'. I'll get to wear a tuxedo every day to work, and all my meals will be free. It was so interesting to me because it's he's talking about the benefits of working at a fancy restaurant, really, not owning a fancy restaurant. He actually can't imagine being a capitalist, right? What he can imagine is these kind of images of that he associates with wealth, right? Like tuxedos, fancy restaurants, opulent meals, right? And then Tim Blake Nelson, he's talking about he wants to get back the family land, essentially, right? And he says, you ain't no kind of man if you ain't got land, right? This idea of needing to have a homestead, needing to have a place of your own, free from governance and control, right? And then of course they go to Everett and he's like, oh, I didn't have a plan. And that plays differently now for me in retrospect because I'm like, oh, of course he doesn't have a plan because the money is not real, right? But also kind of seems to speak to his kind of way of kind of going through life and kind of assuming he can talk his way out of any situation, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, thinking back to that scene, I'm wondering if we could use that as a window into thinking about kind of like the class politics of this film, which is kind of a depiction in a lot of ways of working class culture. There are depictions of black culture in it. There are obviously also depictions of um, uh, oppressive politicians who are sort of trafficking in ideas about class, right? Like Homer Stokes comes to mind, right? He like positions himself as the friend of the little man, right? When really he's a KKK grand wizard who just will say whatever he thinks is going to get him elected, right? So I wonder what you all thought of like that scene and just kind of the class dynamics of the film more generally.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that I didn't even pick up on that in the moment, Devin. I think one thing that did stand out to me is just when I was starting off thinking about the premise, even because like the Odyssey, they're trying to all get back home, right? And that's clear from the
Yeah.
outset. Whereas this, I'm like, oh, it's interesting that the American adaptation is all about grabbing a big pot of money, right? That's actually the goal. That's actually the goal for at least two of the three. And the third, where it is going back to family, he has essentially conned the others into assisting him. So I think that's an interesting shift to the American approach to the Odyssey, where everyone's just sort of after their bag.
Yeah,
It's selfish,
yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, I hadn't noticed the other pieces there, but it's sort of that like that line from the holdovers that you always hear, that you can't even dream a whole dream, can you? Right? Of with thinking through that. Yeah, Andrew, I don't know, was anything else that stood out to you from there? Or
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like hearing my grandfather in Mississippi talk about growing up in the Depression and like what it was like to even have dreams at that time. He was like, his way of describing living here was like, well, we were told we were poor, but we didn't know that. Was the way he always kind of
Yeah.
described it. He was like, because we were just used to that. It wasn't like there was a depression in this country, but to us, it didn't feel like a depression. It just felt normal. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there's that dynamic in the film with like pretty much all of the characters. And then if you think about Pappy, is kind of the only time you see like a mansion, right? Because he's like sitting on his front porch with his guys. I don't know if that's supposed to be the governor's mansion or if that's just his mansion that he lives in. It's like antebellum mansion, but that's like
Yeah.
the one time you see the upper classes kind of sitting around discussing what they're gonna do, and they kind of look like bumbling idiots too, which I think is interesting. You know, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, none of it is very smart talking politicking, right? It is they're all just sort of idiots. And that was an interesting thing with the depression piece, because I wrote down the one line that the Pete's cousin says after betraying the three of them, because he says, "Sorry, Pete, I know we're kin, but they got this depression on." And just this idea that like, you know, almost like this recognition of the depression being created by people that you know they got this depression. It's not just like a thing that is an act of nature, but it actually was put on by people essentially. So that was one thing, one line that stood out to me.
It all the way you both are describing it too, it reminds me of what has been, you know, obviously the text of this miniseries that we're doing leading up to Chris Nolan's Odyssey, and of course I mean National Lampoon's Vacation, right? But that image of America, right, in which America as this place full of con men, full of people who are going to sell you out, right? And in this film, it's not just people you meet along the way who might do that, right? It's the politicians chiefly who are the real con men, right? And then also our protagonist, who's the con man, right? And so it's kind of interesting because, you know, they obviously meet people who are tricking them, like Big Dan and the Sirens, right? But they also meet people like Tommy Johnson, Right, I've got the Jackson 5 still on the brain, right? And they end up becoming like this like beloved band and things, So there's a little bit of optimism to this film as well, right? But it feels
Yeah.
like the optimism is one that like has to be imagined like away from the politicians almost.
Yeah, it makes me even think that with George Clooney's character Everett McGill, he's sort of like a Clark Griswold-esque kind of guy, right? The sort of fast talking, sort of thinks he knows everything kind of individual, but also keeps getting everyone around him into a bunch of fucking trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And that's like the ultimate American, right? Is the overconfident con man who doesn't realize he's never going to like beat the politicians and the capitalists as the ultimate con man. It's like, thinking you're gonna beat the house on DraftKings and like, like the house always wins, in America. The system
Yeah.
is set up in that way, right?
well, and famously, not famously, maybe you missed the detail. Do you know why he was in jail, the Everett McGill character?
Oh yeah, he was practicing law without a license.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So I thought that may be an interesting connection there as well.
definitely that really connects to like like in like American naturalism, like in the Norris novel McTeague. Like it's about this like giant hulking dentist who his life gets ruined when he's in San Francisco and they discover he's practicing dentistry without a license, right? This seems like a very kind of like late 19th, early 20th century problem to me, right? These kind of places that used to be maybe kind of outside the gaze of the state, kind of falling under its jurisdiction, right? And we're seeing like in the Great Depression, right, and the New Deal, i.e., like Tennessee Valley Authority flooding the the town and bringing in electricity, right? A more sort of robust federal state emerging in the United States.
Yeah, well, this is like New Deal type stuff too, right? You got to think about things like that are happening in the background, sort of. It's funny that you mentioned the dentistry thing because that's the next con that he mentions at the end, the very end of the film. He says it's kind of hard to catch, but he says like, "I know this guy who can print me up a dental license."
Oh wow, I didn't even notice
Did you
that.
notice that? Yeah, it's what he tells Holly Hunter at the very end, and she's like, "Ain't gonna be no marriage," and she walks away because she realized he hasn't changed. He's still just like on to the next con. So.
Definitely, yeah. Which is why it's also a very classic comedy, right? It kind of ends in this sort of like cyclical way, as opposed to like with some kind of like dramatic change of affairs. Really, it's really just sort of back to where we started in a way, except this time with like dentistry instead of law, I guess.
Yeah.
But the other characters, right? They find this early solace in religion, right? With the baptism scene that Everett distances himself from immediately, right? And I know Andrew, you had some ideas about the kind of religious themes in the film.
I think the biggest thing for me, it's like it has a really great religious tone to the entire film, where like everything is sort of under this idea of good and evil, and the music, the way the music plays into the film, I think is very like Christian based type of feeling that you get with that. Like it's. A lot of the music is the first songs you hear is the guys on the Chain Gang, right? And that's got this sort of black gospel feel to it. And then pretty much the next song are the people walking to the water to get baptized. I think that's like the next kind of big number you hear. So it kind of like sets the tone for the film to like put you in this like frame of mind of like good and evil. And maybe that was a way for them to try to separate from the Odyssey. Like your idea of good and evil would be a little different from the Odyssey, to try to bring like kind of a Western idea of good and evil, very Christian idea.
Yeah.
Because it's like I mentioned, the sheriff too is sort of this devil, this like Satan type figure.
Yeah, it's a
Also,
weird
but I think
tension
it's
in the
really interesting.
movie, right? Because like the
Yeah,
Odyssey is like Greek myth,
right.
and the movie is trafficking in that while at the same time being like very much a like the Christian culture of the American South
Right.
thing. So it's kind of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
interesting tension, I think, in part of I think what makes the film so compelling too, and not just totally canned, is like it's playing with stereotypes and it's playing with tropes, but it's kind of combining them in sort of inventive ways and new ways we haven't quite seen before.
Yeah, and just like evokes emotion too, I think, in a really, um, in a way in which a like church service. I don't know if you're familiar with going to a church service. The music is often used in a church service to evoke an emotion. That's why they plunge into the water to get baptized. Because they like feel this emotion running through
Yeah,
them all of a
yeah.
sudden, and that's then there's also the rational side that's also in the film, which I think is really great. Everett's like the voice of reason at all times, where he's like, "You guys are idiots." My favorite line is it's at the end, where after the flood has happened, where the flood too is like sort of a religious metaphor, also for like
Right.
for a cleansing of the land, and they're like riding on top of the casket. And Tommy's coming up, and he's giving this. He's already given this speech about. He was down there praying a minute ago.
Yep.
And now he's already given this speech about like, oh, they're going to electrify this whole place, and it's going to be a new age of reason in Mississippi. Like we're going to leave behind all these ideas of this religious nonsense, and it's going to be a new age of reason in Mississippi, which obviously doesn't happen, but it's really
Yeah.
great how they work that in there.
Right. And immediately it was immediately preceded by essentially a like biblical act, right?
Right. Yeah.
And where Ulysses sort of for the first time prays to be saved. And I think the sheriff has one line where no, they're talking about how they've been saved, and the sheriff says, "I think the law is a human institution." And so then I think it's great how then they're all washed away, and but then immediately, of course, Ulysses is like, "Hey, new age of reason, none of this, none of this anymore." Yeah,
Yeah. But it's of course FDR, indirectly who has ushered in this biblical act, so to speak, right? It is a New Deal project that causes the flood.
yeah, which was my basic theory that I was messaging Devin about, is that God or Zeus is FDR in this, just just in the background, ready to ready to save our protagonist, or this Deus Ex Machina at the end to conclude things.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you, TVA. I thought this was interesting, Andrew. Did you catch where Ulysses Everett said that the homestead was?
Where he said it was?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I sort of had to look it up, and so apparently at one point he mentions it's in fucking Tate County.
Tate County. Okay.
Tate County, which is actually my very first year teaching was in Tate County schools at Independence High School. But so I don't know, like, and then I was looking at this, and I guess sort of in the general area you have a Sardis Lake, so maybe that's the what we get with the TVA, and so Sardis Lake, Devin, is essentially a man-made reservoir, and so I was trying to sort of, because I was figuring out like where the hell is this supposed to be happening at the end here, because early on it's like the Delta, it seems very you've got the flat and farmland, but then towards the end it's very much like pine country, and I'm like, where are we here? What's going on? It's not even really pine country, it's a lot of deciduous trees, but I couldn't quite figure out where it was supposed to be, and so that was my little researching.
The landscape looks really a lot like Mississippi. They do the color effect thing, which is I've always found kind of weird.
Yeah.
But Do we know where this film was actually filmed?
I think it was filmed in Mississippi, but down around Jackson, if I'm correct. But you can double check on that, Devin, because
Yeah,
I
I'll
was
check on
trying
that.
to figure out where exactly this was filmed. So,
Looks like it was filmed in near Canton, and then also Florence, South Carolina.
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I could definitely see, especially some of the later scenes when it's a bit more foresty, that
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
being more South Carolina, whereas the earlier scenes were felt sort of more Mississippi-esque. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other aspects we wanted to dig into from the film that we're sticking with y'all?
Was something I've always found. Well, this is what I found interesting on this watch, and I asked my wife about this and my kids about it at the dinner the other night because they've all seen the movie, and I was like, "Why?" I think I know the answer to this question, but why did he choose to cast, or did they choose to cast three white guys as the leads in this film? Why?
Mm,
Because if they're coming from a parchment farm, they would have most obviously been black, more than likely.
yeah.
There
Yeah.
weren't, and if so, why did they pick the only three white guys in that prison to follow on this journey? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Well, because when you're opening up the very first scene with the chain gangs, like from what I could tell, they were all black prisoners
right,
that in that very opening scene, and then suddenly it's like, here's the three white protagonists
yeah,
escaping.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, Devin. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of the things with this movie in general, right? And maybe with the Coen brothers in general a little bit, but because it is the thrust and power of this movie does come from the music, right? And when you're talking about American folk, country, blues music, you're talking about black music, right? You're
Yeah.
talking about music that came out of very specific social relations in the American South, right? And that's obviously the world that the Coen brothers are interested in, but there does seem to be like a hesitance as much as they're willing to take like racism on. You obviously have like the KKK thing, you have the jokes about miscegenation, right? Like Tommy's our main black character, and he's not really a character. He's like there at different times, and he's like cool. It's like, oh, the Robert Johnson guy, right? But he doesn't really have like an arc as a character. And I don't know. I mean, it's like the easiest answer, I guess, is to put it up to just sort of like them not feeling they know how to take on like actual like fully fleshed out black characters. Because I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Lady Killers, but when they try to do that with the Wayans character in that, it's rough. But what did you think, Andrew?
I mean, I thought they probably just did it because they wanted to make a film that was popular. You know,
Well, yeah, that there's also the obviously the very cynical, just like we're getting George Clooney and we're getting
right, right. But I really think that's probably what it boils down to mostly is that, and I think you're right. I think they didn't know how to write a script that would work for black leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it actually does in a weird way kind of makes the film do an interesting thing where like maybe the film is also doing this, but it also is kind of about the capture of black music by like white controlling interests,
Right.
and you see that happen as early as the recording session, right, where you have like
Right.
they're like lying about their race to the blind guy various times. Tommy is the only instrumentalist on that track, right? But doesn't really seem to be considered as much of a soggy bottom boy as the other three.
Right.
And then, of course, at the end of the film, even then, the soggy bottom boys who are selling the sort of like white captured version of blues music are themselves captured by the governor, right? And that music is put towards his interests, right? So I don't think the Coens are necessarily escaping that themselves. I think they're also kind of doing that as like, filmmakers from Minnesota that have like at this point are like pretty like well integrated into Hollywood and um, mainstream American culture. Uh, making a big successful movie about the American South and race in the American South and the KKK, and turning it all into a bit of a Looney Tune thing.
Mm.
So I think there's multiple sides to it, but it's interesting how it kind of is reflected in the themes as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that they should have done a final scene, Devin, like Martin Scorsese at End of Killers of the Flower Moon, where both Coen brothers come out and are like, "Listen, there's, you know, it ain't perfect. There's
Yeah.
some issues. I'm sure they would have
Well,
done a really
it's like
bad job with that.
no, for sure. I think it's probably for the best that they did
Yeah.
what they did, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's interesting, comparing it to something like Killers of the Flower Moon, right? It does show you just how different the sort of cultural conversation around issues of like white artists representing non-white stories is, right? Where
Yeah.
like Scorsese in, whatever year that was, just a couple years ago, feels the need to like put himself in the movie and like remind you that he's a filmmaker making a movie and that this is all kind of mediated, right?
Yeah.
And in like 1999, 2000, when this movie comes out, that was not something that was of concern for Hollywood. I'm not saying there weren't people who felt that way, right?
Yeah.
But Hollywood did not feel they needed to acknowledge that,
Yep.
particularly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. It feels like the politics. Um, it's just interesting to think about the politics, like you were talking about, Devin, being from that time. What was on the Coen brothers' minds at around the year 2000 or the late 90s.
Yeah. Like I wonder, like it's really it's. I didn't actually realize this is like a pre 9/11 film until
Yeah.
I was going to watch it, and it's interesting to try to because that's such a vanishingly small moment in history when it's like the Clinton 90s are over, but 9/11 hasn't happened yet. And I guess Bush wouldn't have been in office yet, right? We're talking about the year that like the Bush Gore campaign is happening.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about like, is that the election they have in mind when they're representing, Homer Stokes and Pappy O'Daniel,
Mm. Yeah. It
Because
is.
what I remember from the when you go back and you watch like old SNL from the like Gore Bush year, like the joke they keep doing is that this election doesn't matter. Like the joke was like they're basically indistinguishable. There's a couple, and it was very much a sort of '90s end of history thing of like we've got it all worked out. It's just a matter of time. We just have to figure out our differences, right? And then 9/11 happens, and it's like, oh, it turned out that was one of the most consequential elections of all time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even how this film is sort of ending with like, oh, the crowd's just gonna boo this guy who's trying to like stoke racial conflict right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Homer Stokes is his name. Well, there you have it. So I think that when you contrast that to what was actually happening in Mississippi, Arkansas around this time, like the Homer Stokes characters are getting a pretty good bang for their buck with trying to sort of stoke racial resentment and sort of capitalizing on that. So it's certainly if only a catchy tune is all it took to win the crowd over. Oh
Yeah. Yeah. If only Hillary had gotten more
Like the
into
Soggy Bottom
bluegrass.
Boys. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
or like, let's be real, Bernie would have been, let's get Bernie a better song. But yeah, it's like interesting to think like, again, I think this relates to like why don't the Coen brothers take on like, the serious issue of like race in America more wholeheartedly? Why is it more this kind of Looney Tunes treatment? Is I do think the Coen brothers kind of have this perspective on politics that is the kind of perspective of a sort of like wry, checked out liberal who doesn't really feel like they have a lot of skin in the game. Is just sort of like has this like idea of politics as like politics is like corrupting and stupid and a farce, and they like might be right. It's hard to look at like 2026 and not say American politics is a farce on some level, right? But it is a farce with like deadly consequences, like
Right. Yeah.
but I feel like they're kind of operating in that just sort of like, wow, this is all a big joke.
Agreed. And of course, they had to edit out that scene where Sorry, I was trying to think of the Spider-Man scene with the helicopter gets stuck in the web between the two towers. I'm gonna be like, right, you got stuck between the two towers with the Dapper Dan cream, and they had to edit that whole scene out of the film. But couldn't quite land it. So I think there's only one thing left to do. And
pass out the jimmies.
Yes, and so
That's a
Andrew,
James for you. That's a James.
Man, we finally got one.
James Buffett. Yeah.
James Buffett. So Andrew, what we are doing for this miniseries, typically at the end of each episode, we have to rate the film in various other things, and this is a continuation from the fact that our very first episode we rated Predator in terms of Shia LaBeouf's, and we sort of locked ourselves into this Sisyphean sort of, and we're really trapped with this now. But for this miniseries, no better than the king of vacations, Mr. James Buffett. We are rating our films in terms of Jimmy Buffett's, and I'm happy to kick us off for this. Now, folks who have been listening to the miniseries, which again, Devin, it's apparently mostly Brazilians.
Yes, which is great because it's World Cup time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like they need to get hyped up for these matches. And I don't know of a better way to do it than to listen to like a bunch of guys sort of like meanderingly talk about a meandering movie.
Yeah. Yep. Folks may know though that I have rated every single one in terms of Cheeseburger in Paradise, and I'm going to not do anything different for this because it matches so well. Because when I think of the American Odyssey, like they have this goal here, but what is like the goal for Americans? If you were to make the Odyssey today, they wouldn't be trying to get home to their wife. It would be about a man who's trying to find that cheeseburger in paradise, right?
Yeah.
What is returning to Ithaca if not eating that cheeseburger in paradise? And so I'm going to give this. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Cheeseburgers in Paradise by Jimmy Buffett, because I do think that the music is great. The setting was nice. I loved all the little Mississippi references they gave, as much as it was very meandering of where they actually were. Really enjoyed the film. Like we said, there's a few places where maybe it acts as farce, things that are actually quite serious in that, in Mississippi in the 30s and things like that. But overall, really enjoyed it. So I'm giving it 4 out of 5 Cheeseburgers in Paradise. I'm going to say 4 out of 5 sliders. How about that?
All right.
So that's my rating for this. Devin, do you want to go next, or do you want to go? Do you have a whole convoluted thing you're trying to do? I don't want you to go next if you need to go last.
Jimmy Buffett also was a Mississippian, I must say. Did you guys know this?
I did not know that. I just assumed he was born in Key West or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Hell yeah,
that's like
Pascagoula. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Of all the fact that he would be born in Pascagoula does make the most sense if he was born in Mississippi. So
What's the vibe of Pascagoula?
I mean, it's like on the coast, right, Andrew?
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
Old South, but it's got this sort of Old South thing going on too. So I don't know how long he actually lived there. It's
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know how much influence that had on him, but he did grow up near the ocean, so seemed to
Yep.
have never left his blood,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
they say. Yeah.
Yeah. Devin, what about you? How many Jimmy Buffetts would you rate Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
So I'm also thinking 4 here, but I'm going off board with this one because I don't feel, despite just learning that he is from Mississippi, that Jimmy Buffett is the right vibe for this movie. I'm rating this movie in terms of its biggest fan, Mitt Romney. And so the 4 Mitt Romneys I'm going to give this movie. Mitt Romney, CEO of the Salt Lake Olympics in 2002, right? One of our great accomplishments as a nation, right? Who can imagine pulling that off, right? Mitt Romney, governor of Massachusetts, right? A classic, not a Southern trope, but a classic American trope is like how much Massachusetts likes to occasionally elect a reasonable Republican, right?
Yeah.
Third, Mitt Romney, 2012 presidential candidate, right? The man whose favorite meat was hot dog. And then, of course, finally, Mitt Romney, senator of Utah, last bastion of the hope of democracy, the respectable. What the hell? Respectable. The respectable Republican par excellence, right? He convinced so many people to give him so many jobs, but he never got to have the one he truly wanted, president. I give this movie 4 Mitt Romneys out of 5. In
Wow.
fact, wait, maybe I should change that. The star he doesn't get is the 2012 presidential election, and then I don't know. The fourth one is like just like when he dressed as fucking Ted Lasso for Halloween or something.
Oh God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very nice. Well, you went
Nice.
rogue there, Devin. So I'll be curious, Andrew, how your rating compares. Andrew, how would you rate Oh Brother Where Art Thou in terms of Jimmy Buffett's?
Well, it's a pretty Margaritaville type of movie, I feel like.
Mm.
Because is that a place that you can ever actually go to and stay? I don't know. There's so many of them. They're all over the place. Uh, and as being a Mississippian, I feel like I'm just going to stick with the Jimmy Buffett thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to give it 4 out of 5 also, but you guys both did that, so I feel like I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Ah, nice.
Oh yeah.
Because 5 margaritas would really put you in the right place
Yeah.
be a Margaritaville.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really great movie. I'm surprised how well it holds up after
Yeah.
26 years.
Yeah.
And all the politics stuff that we talked about, it's like interesting to think about that with our current political climate, to think about the politics of this movie now. So I just think it's really good. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. It's a movie I can always watch and always like. It was never disappoints me. Yeah. So,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah.
And it just makes me think with Margaritaville, it's almost like at the end of the film with the flooding of the valley and the electricity, it's sort of that transition from Margaritaville, the song, to Margaritaville
Yeah.
establishment.
Establishment, yeah.
An empire. A new age of reason.
New Age of Reason. Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
suddenly find yourself sitting in the actual Margaritaville structure, and you take a sip of your margarita with such anticipation, and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't actually what I wanted.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been really fun. Fun to gab with you guys.
Yes, this was a blast. Andrew, where can folks find you if they are looking to connect?
Yeah, the best place to find me is andrewbryant.bandcamp.com is where I keep all of my music in both digital and physical form. You can order it and listen to it there. Of course, if you really want to be lame, you can listen to me on Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or something like that, But it's all on there as well. Or go to my website, andrewbryantmusic.com. I don't update it very much, but everything is there. So, yeah.
Very cool. I didn't know Bandcamp I think you did it on Bandcamp, right? The live listen through.
Yeah.
I loved that. I was like, oh, Bandcamp has this functionality. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can just
your last album, sort of going through, and then everyone could sort of listen in live while you were sort of talking through the tracks. That was very cool.
Yeah, and Andrew is a fantastic musician, so definitely go and check those out. And thank you once again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Your Tall, But I'm Standing in Front of You. Follow us on all the social medias at Your Tall Pod. Follow Ethan at Mathissippi, speaking of.
Hey.
Right? In case you were ever wondering why that's his Twitter handle. The math part, who knows? We'll have to get to the bottom of that in another episode. Follow me at Stale Cooper. Email us at yourtallpod@gmail.com. And as always,
keep circling that drain. How was that?